You thought I wouldn't notice you sitting here, huh? Windows tinted, charger humming. What are you hiding?
Officer, I'm not hiding anything. I'm reading a case brief on my car charges.
So get smart with me. Step out now.
I refused any lawful order. I simply asked why you're demanding it.
Because I said
I made
so.
it hold up in court, and you know it.
Open the...
It's 2 p.m. at a quiet Tesla supercharger. And what you're really hearing isn't just the hum of charging cars. It's the sound of a career ending in real time. Officer Sterling thought he just took down a non-compliant suspect because he smelled something. But he couldn't have been more wrong. The man gasping for air in that crisp white shirt, he's no criminal. That's Judge Marcus Thorne. He wasn't resisting. He was quietly reading a case file, one that just happened to be a corruption investigation targeting Sterling's own police department. In just a few seconds, what started as a routine act of ego turned into an $8.5 million catastrophe. Sterling didn't just break protocol. He attacked the one man who held the power to completely destroy him. And get this, Tesla's Sentry Mode captured every single second, every single lie. Now, before we dive in any deeper, I want to know, where are you watching from? Are you in the US, somewhere else in the world? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It helps us keep growing and brings you more stories like this. So let's get back to what really went down. At first glance, the man behind the wheel of that silver Tesla Model X looked like any other successful executive catching up on work during his lunch break. He wore a perfectly pressed white dress shirt, sleeves rolled just enough to reveal a sharp, expensive-looking watch. A dark navy silk tie hung loose around his neck, and his polished black Oxfords rested neatly on the floor mat. But as we all know, appearances can be deceiving. That man was Marcus Thorne, and in the halls of the federal courthouse, he's an absolute giant. Judge Thorne isn't just another attorney. He's a living legend in the legal world of his state. He spent 3 decades building a reputation that's pretty much untouchable. He's the guy who stared down crime syndicates without flinching. He's exonerated the innocent with a single signature. When Judge Thorne speaks, everyone in the courtroom holds their breath. He's the embodiment of law and order, the bedrock of his community. He never demands respect. He just commands it with silence and intelligence. Today, though, he wasn't running a trial. He was preparing for a war on corruption. On the tablet in his lap was a sealed subpoena authorizing a sweeping internal investigation into misconduct within the local police force. He was literally holding the fate of dirty cops in his hands. Calm, focused, and completely within his rights. He didn't need to flash a badge or raise his voice. Real power doesn't need to shout. Unfortunately for Officer Sterling, he was about to make the most expensive mistake of his life. Judge Thorne was the wrong target on the wrong day for the wrong cop. Through those dark aviator sunglasses, Sterling didn't see a respected judge or a pillar of the community. He only saw a black man sitting in a luxury car worth more than he'd make in 5 years. The bias was immediate, visceral. Instead of a polite greeting, Sterling stomped up to the Tesla, hand hovering way too close to his holster, heavy boots crunching across the pavement like a warning shot. He wasn't investigating a crime. He was looking to invent one. He rapped hard on the glass with his knuckle. Thorne, ever composed, rolled the window down just 3 inches. That's perfectly legal, but perfectly annoying if you're a bully looking for control. Sterling leaned in, took a theatrical sniff, and delivered the oldest cop cliche in the book. I smell marijuana coming from this vehicle. Total lie. The car smelled like new leather and expensive cologne, nothing else. But Sterling needed a reason, any excuse to yank this man out and flex his authority. Here's the moment of truth. Judge Thorne could have ended this instantly. He could have flashed his federal credentials and watched the blood drain from Sterling's face. But he didn't. He made a choice. He wanted to see whether the officer would follow the law or his own prejudice. "Officer," Thorne said, voice steady, "I don't smoke and there's no odor. What's your probable cause?" It was a simple question, but to Sterling it sounded like open defiance. You could feel the tension spike. Sterling's face twisted. He wasn't used to being questioned. Pause for a second, be honest. If a cop straight up lied to your face to search your car, would you stay calm like Judge Thorne? Or would you lose it? Type calm or angry in the comments. I want to see how you'd react. Thorne chose calm, but he was about to pay a painful price for it. The word warrant landed like a slap. In that split second, logic evaporated. The Constitution meant nothing. Sterling decided he was judge, jury, and executioner now, his face twisted with rage. I don't need a damn warrant, he shouted, voice cracking with anger. He ignored every protocol, didn't call for backup, and trampled the rights of a law-abiding citizen. He yanked the Tesla's Falcon Wing door so hard the whole car shook. Judge Thorne, still trying to be the voice of reason, said, "Officer, this is a violation of the Fourth Amendment." But he never finished. Sterling raised his canister and sprayed chemical fire right into Thorne's eyes. At point-blank range, Thorne gasped, pain burning his eyes, lungs seizing up as the pepper spray filled the cabin. But Sterling wasn't done. He reached in, unbuckled the seatbelt, and dragged the respected judge out of the car like he was tossing out trash. He slammed Thorne to the pavement. "Stop resisting, stop fighting me," Sterling yelled, playing to the crowd, crafting a false narrative on the spot. Thorne wasn't resisting. He was struggling to breathe, writhing in pain. His once pristine shirt was now torn and filthy from the parking lot. Sterling pressed his knee into Thorne's back, grinding his face into the concrete. He leaned in close and sneered. "You think a fancy car makes you special? You're nobody." It was an absolutely disgusting display of abuse and tyranny. But while Sterling was busy playing tough guy, he made a fatal mistake. He forgot about the Tesla. The Model X was wide awake. 8 high-def cameras were rolling, recording in 4K. The side camera caught the illegal spray. The pillar camera caught the assault. The front camera captured every bit of Sterling's hatred. Every scream, every shove, every violation of civil rights was uploaded to the cloud instantly. Sterling thought he was teaching a lesson, but he was actually starring in the evidence video that would ruin his life. Suddenly, sirens split the air. Yes, backup arrived. 3 cruisers sliding to a halt, tires squealing. Sterling stood over his victim, chest heaving, adrenaline pumping, convinced he'd just taken down a dangerous criminal. He looked at the other officers with a smug grin, pointing at the man on the ground. He resisted. He reached for a weapon. I had to neutralize him. Sterling shouted, desperate to control the narrative before anyone else could say a word. But the highest-ranking officer, Chief Miller, wasn't looking at Sterling. He was staring at the man lying on the ground, torn white shirt and all. Miller's eyes went wide. He froze. He didn't see a criminal. He recognized the face instantly. It was a face he'd seen in newspapers and on TV, a face he feared more than any gang leader in the city. Miller rushed forward, shoving Sterling aside so hard the younger cop nearly fell. "Get back, get away from him now," the chief shouted, his voice full of real panic. Sterling, confused, started to protest. "Chief, he's a suspect. Shut up, you idiot," Miller snapped, dropping to his knees, not caring about the dirt on his uniform. He grabbed the victim's wallet, which had fallen in the struggle, and flipped it open. The golden badge of the federal judiciary gleamed in the sun. "Judge Thorne, Your Honor, oh my God." The silence that followed was louder than any siren. Sterling's smug grin vanished. His face turned ghostly white, the color draining out in seconds. His heart pounded. His knees buckled. He had to grab his cruiser to stay upright. Reality hit like a freight train. He hadn't just assaulted any civilian. He'd blinded a federal judge. And not just any judge. This was the man who had signed the warrant to investigate Sterling's own department for corruption earlier that very day. Despite the pain, Judge Thorne sat up with a dignity that was terrifying. He didn't yell. He didn't rage. He just raised a trembling finger at Sterling. "I want that man's badge," Thorne said hoarsely, but with the finality of a death sentence. "And I want the FBI on the phone now." Sterling tried to say something, but his throat was bone dry. I didn't know. I thought." It was pathetic. He looked for support, but his fellow officers had already stepped away, wanting nothing to do with the nuclear fallout that was about to happen. He was completely alone. His career was finished. He might even lose his freedom. The predator had just realized he was trapped in a cage with the lion. If seeing karma catch up to Sterling feels satisfying, hit that like button right now. Chief Miller gently helped Judge Thorne to his feet. The power dynamic had totally flipped. The guy in the uniform was now the criminal. The man in the torn shirt was the law. Sterling's psychological collapse was complete. This was a nightmare he'd never wake up from. The investigation that followed wasn't just a local matter, it was a federal takedown. Within an hour, a fleet of black FBI SUVs swarmed the precinct. The agents didn't knock or ask permission. They walked in and seized everything: computers, body cam servers, duty logs, the works, all evidence for a federal civil rights probe. The centerpiece was the Tesla Model X footage. They played it on a giant courtroom screen. The silence was deafening. Y'all, that 4K video destroyed every single lie Sterling tried to tell. It showed Judge Thorne sitting calmly, hands always visible, speaking respectfully. Most damning, the audio picked up Sterling muttering before even knocking on the window, "Look at this guy. Think you're special? Let's see how you like the pavement." It was all premeditated, all malicious. The whole marijuana smell excuse fell apart under the glare of digital evidence. But the FBI didn't stop there. Judge Thorne's case was just the tip of the iceberg. When they subpoenaed Sterling's records, a horrifying pattern emerged. They found dash cam footage from 6 months before. Sterling had used the exact same marijuana lie to illegally search a nursing student's car. There were resisting arrest reports against a 60-year-old librarian. Yet it was clear Sterling wasn't just a bad apple. He was a serial abuser who used his badge to bully the very citizens he was sworn to protect. Forensics even recovered deleted texts from Sterling's phone, messages bragging to other officers about teaching people a lesson, showing them who's boss. These were read aloud in court. The shame was palpable. The defense attorney just put his head in his hands. There was no defending this. It wasn't just a mistake, it was a lifestyle of corruption. When past victims came forward, the case exploded into a class action nightmare for the city. People who'd been silenced for years, people who pleaded guilty just to end the harassment, suddenly had a voice, empowered by Judge Thorne's stand. Now, that pepper spray incident at the Tesla supercharger became the catalyst for a complete purge of the department. The FBI uncovered that Sterling's supervisor had approved false reports for years, ignoring complaints. Now he was in handcuffs too. The system built to protect bad cops was being torn down brick by brick by the very man they tried to humiliate. On sentencing day, the courtroom was packed. Reporters from every major network crowded the back, cameras aimed at the empty chair Sterling would soon occupy. When he entered, he wasn't the cocky officer in uniform anymore. He wore an orange jumpsuit, wrists shackled, head hung low. The swagger was gone, replaced by the crushing weight of reality. He wouldn't meet the jury's eyes, wouldn't look at the judge, and definitely couldn't look at Marcus Thorne, who sat in the front row, still healing, wearing the same dignified Navy suit he'd worn for years on the bench. The verdict came fast and merciless. The jury deliberated less than 2 hours, guilty on all counts, deprivation of rights under color of law, assault with a dangerous weapon, falsifying police reports. The presiding judge stared down at Sterling, her voice echoing through the silent room. "Mr. Sterling, you betrayed the public trust in the worst way possible. You used the law as a weapon against the innocent." The sentence hit like a sledgehammer. 15 years in federal prison, no parole. A collective gasp swept through the gallery. Sterling's mother sobbed. He closed his eyes, a single tear running down his cheek. But that wasn't the end. The civil suit settled for a record-breaking $8.5 million. The city admitted full liability. Yes, the police department had to issue a public apology on national TV, a humiliation that will stain their reputation for a generation. As bailiffs led Sterling away, the only sound was the clink of his chains. He disappeared through the back door into a cage where he'll spend the next decade and a half. But Judge Thorne had one last surprise. Outside the courthouse, facing a wall of microphones, he stunned the world. Justice isn't about money. It's about change. He announced that every cent of that $8.5 million settlement would go to founding the Thorne Legal Defense Fund, a nonprofit offering free, top-tier legal support to victims of police brutality who can't afford a lawyer. He turned his pain into a shield for others. He didn't just win his own war, he armed the next generation to keep fighting. Yes, this story sends a chill down the spine of every corrupt official in America. It's a brutal reminder. Authority isn't a license to bully. It's a burden of responsibility. Sterling forgot that. He saw a black man in a luxury car and saw a target, not a citizen. He judged a book by its cover, and that book threw the entire library at him. But this isn't just about one bad cop. It's a wake-up call for the whole system. That $8.5 million didn't come out of Sterling's pocket. It came from taxpayers. But the 15-year sentence, that's his to carry forever. Let it be a warning to anyone who thinks a badge grants immunity from consequences. We live in a new era. No more shadows to hide in. With Tesla Sentry Mode, store cameras, and every bystander's smartphone, the eyes of the public are always open. The days of his word against mine are over. And now it's his word against the 4K evidence. And as Officer Sterling learned the hard way, the camera never lies. Judge Thorne showed us what real strength looks like. He didn't fight back with fists. He fought with the law. He didn't scream. He litigated by donating that massive settlement to help others. He proved his integrity was never for sale. He turned a moment of personal trauma into a movement for systemic change. That's what true power looks like. You don't need to spray chemicals in someone's face to feel big. Real power protects. Real power serves. Real power holds the line when the darkness tries to cross it. So, what would you have done in Judge Thorne's shoes? Would you have had the patience to wait, or would you have fought back sooner? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. And if you believe justice should be colorblind but clear on facts, hit that like button to help us get this message out to millions more. If you haven't joined the family yet, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story. And if you thought this story was satisfying, you won't believe what happened when a corrupt mayor tried to seize the property of a retired Navy SEAL hiding a secret in his basement. Click the video on your screen right now to watch. Stay safe, stay smart, and I'll see you in the next one.